What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we got a bit of an update for a game that we believe is coming out this year for the Switch 2 with Nintendo, but that's now leading to more speculation around another Nintendo Direct after this apparent partner showcase that's happening this week. But we're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Sony and how they are continuing to try to get people from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, now just going straight to the source. Also, we do have a mystery game that's out there right now, and while it looked like it might line up to be a $1,000 PlayStation 2 game getting a remake, seems that maybe that's not the case, and it could actually be something more towards Nintendo. All that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Sonic Racing Crossworlds because there was a very odd conversation that was happening yesterday. And I say it's odd because it's based around documentation that's from, well, November of 2025. It's actually from now the most recent report for Sega, but here soon next week, it won't be, as we'll have their new financial report. But we can see this. This is page 25, and this is part of their presentation to investors, where they did talk about Sonic Racing Crossworlds that's selling over 1 million units worldwide. However, they say the initial performance did not meet our expectations, and we are aiming to sell approximately another 1 million units within this fiscal year. We aim to sustain long-term sales by encouraging players to enjoy the game over time through the continued support of the title, including ongoing release of additional downloadable content. So, I mean, look, the game itself was $70, and it's just, as these games get more and more expensive, especially right now where it feels like half the market is just playing free-to-play games, it's going to be more and more difficult to sell just significant numbers of units unless you are a massive property of some kind. So here, while it's Sonic, it's kind of an offshoot of Sonic Racing. All right, now we will again hear more from Sega next week on, I think it's the 13th, where they'll give us an update around numbers and even projections for where they think Sonic Racing Crossworlds is going. But a lot of the conversation recently has actually been based around fairly old data, now months old data, and we'll get an update next week. Also, it looks like Apex Legends will be ending here pretty soon on the Switch 1. Now, we can see this is over on Nintendo Life, saying following the release of Apex Legends on Switch 2 last August, EA and Respawn Entertainment have now announced Season 29 will be the final update for the free-to-play Battle Royale on the original Switch system. Players on the Switch will be able to continue playing the game until August 4th, 2026, which is timed in the arrival of Season 30. After this, the game will no longer be playable on the Switch, and this version will not connect to the game's servers. To my understanding, even like currency and stuff, you basically have to spend it, and that's it. And then the game will shutter, and well, to keep playing, if you want to play on, say, Nintendo's platform, you would have to go up to the Switch 2. And this is a point I'm also going to make with the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5. I do think live service games really are going to dictate the upgrade path for many people when it comes to last generation to current generation, but we'll come back to that here soon. Oh, and we do have some free games that you can claim right now. Always like to bring up the idea of just being able to get free stuff. So you can see this is over on GOG. This is the Alone in the Dark, the Trilogy 1, 2, and 3, and it's just up as part of their giveaway. You just add it to your library. It's counting down, so you still have, another 57 or 58 hours to claim these. I mean, by the time you see this, it'll be much less. So again, I recommend it. Why not? It's free. GOG does let you download the games completely. They're DRM free. So just wanted to throw that out there. If you haven't played them before, no real risk. Just so it's free. It's something I'll keep an eye on here and there with GOG and their free giveaways because, again, it's nice to get free stuff. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and an update for what we think is going to be a 2026 game release. And I say think because it's still to be determined. We're still waiting to hear about actually quite a bit of Nintendo's 2026 beyond a couple of games here that are coming up relatively soon. Think of Mario Tennis or Copia, those two games, right? Those will be up actually by March. We'll be through those two, and probably by then we'll have a clear idea as to some third-party games and most likely what Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have planned for their new system heading into the holiday of 2026. But the other game that I'm referring to is Splatoon Raiders. Remember, that was announced months ago, last year now, and it was kind of just thrown out there, just on a whim. It's like, hey, Splatoon Raiders. It was alongside of that Splatoon 3 update for the Switch 2, and it it was kind of just there, and then it wasn't, that was it, right? We're just like, okay, we'll hear more information at some point on it. And now there's been some movement behind the scenes, and this has to do more so with its trademark. And you can see, now this is quoted by Go Nintendo with Mike Odyssey, just saying that an updated trademark just appeared for Splatoon Raiders with a publication date of February 17th. Says this could mean a general direct on February 17th, announcing the game to release at a later date or today at date drop. So, to my understanding with the trademark stuff, there's a lot of procedure that has to happen here. So while it is pending now and it's set up for that February 17th date as shown by the documentation, doesn't necessarily mean that it's aligning with plans that Nintendo has in the near term. Now, they have to get the trademark, they want to get the trademark and all that stuff done for, say, marketing. And if we are to believe that this game is coming out this year, they're going to want to market it, right? I mean, again, it's going to be an offshoot game from the Splatoon franchise, specifically for the Switch 2. So I'm sure it'll be part of their big plans for the system in 2026. Also worth noting, some of the classification that they have this marked under does seem like it could imply maybe some online components, and it would be weird to me if it didn't have some kind of online components, as Nintendo does like to also push NSO as much as possible, link it to a bunch of different games so you have to keep re-up your subscription every year. Now, the reason something like a general direct is being referenced here when you look at just publication date for a trademark is because there's been a lot of noise around there being another direct after this apparent partner showcase this week. And Nintendo could announce that partner showcase today, tomorrow. I've even thought about them just shadow drop. Hey, here it is. This is the partner showcase. They've done that before, and it's on Thursday, and you can just see a bunch of partners or third parties that we're working with to bring those games to the Switch 2. And I think it could be very, very interesting because the Switch 2 is more capable, I feel like, even right off the bat than the Switch 1 was when it came out back in 2017, going into 2018. Still, though, a general direct, I think, is something that a lot of people want because they would like to see what Nintendo has planned from a first-party perspective, because that's what really sells Nintendo's hardware. What's Mario doing? What about a new Zelda game? Smash Brothers, Animal Crossing got a recent update, but you go down the list, the next big Pokemon game that most likely will be at Pokemon Day later on this month now. And so because of that, I do think there are a lot of people trying to will it into existence a bit here. But it does make you think about how crowded things would get for Nintendo in a hurry, where they do have this partner showcase, we'll say this week, and then there's supposed to be a Sony State of Play next week, following that up with a General Direct, following that up with a Pokemon Day event, and then you follow that up with Mario Day, where there'll at least be something. It could just be a 10-minute video that they put out there saying, hey, look at all this cool Mario merch we have, and then maybe a Nintendo Switch Online drop of, I don't know, some random games for the basic and then the advanced tiers or something. That's kind of what I would have in mind for it, but that seems like an awful lot of stuff hitting all at once. So a general direct could happen, sure, in the future, but I don't know if I would place one somewhere in February, and I definitely wouldn't take the trademark here necessarily to mean that there is some kind of general direct happening even on February 17th, as that day could come and go, and it's just more procedural, and they just wanted to get the trademark all settled up so that they can start the marketing throughout this year, because yes, eventually they will show us Splatoon Raiders, they will announce the release date, and of course they want to show it to you over and over again as they build up to that day. Next up, let's talk about Sony, as it does seem that they are sending out messages to PlayStation 4 owners who at least turn it on enough to see their screen with a message like this. And this was shared around on social media accounts, with Zubitech, for example, here, saying PlayStation is sending from PlayStation Message to PlayStation 4 users to upgrade to PlayStation 5. And, all right, so this is what it says. Whether you're catching up with hits from 2025, like Claire Obscure Expedition 33, Arc Raiders, and Ghost of Yote, or getting ready for the most anticipated games of 2026, including Saros, 007 First Light, Neo 3, and so much more, now's the perfect time to upgrade your PS5 console. This probably to many people out there who turned it on to play Fortnite that still works on their PS4. Now look, Sony has been working, of course, to get people over to the PS5. That's kind of been their big thing for the entire generation now, and a lot of that had to do with there being a pretty big cross-gen presence, and they're big studios that typically put out those aha kind of games where like, well, I have to move on from the PS3 and get the PS4 because Naughty Dog drops, some crazy game, or here comes Sony Santa Monica, or even Insomniac, sure. But those two big studios, I think Sony Santa Monica and Naughty Dog, you figure they show up with their PS5 only games and there'd be a bit more movement to get people over, especially those who are really interested in the PlayStation ecosystem, but are still fine with PS4 level performance for things like, say, God of War. And I mentioned some of these live service games being the thing that really dictates people upgrading from last generation, and I think that does hold true, where for the day that Fortnite is just shuttered on PlayStation 4 systems is the day that I do think there's going to be a bit of a spike for people going, well, I guess I got to get it on the PS5. Now, there will also be, I think, some other catalysts. The obvious one is Grand Theft Auto 6. That, I think, will be a massive, massive seller for PlayStation 5 especially, and then also Xbox with something like the Series S, provided performance is at least decent enough. But Sony, it's pretty obvious, they're still working to get people over from the PlayStation 4 system. And for people who play their system every now and then, the PS4 probably is still just good enough, which does make me think about how long the PlayStation 5 will be around for, because if we're still dealing with the PS4 now in 2026 to where Sony is sending people digital messages like, hey, maybe you should try out that PlayStation 5 system. Are we going to be talking about Sony in 2040 or something going, hey, maybe you should try out that PlayStation 6 because the PS5 is getting a little old? Next up, let's talk about Bloober Team, as they seem to have a mystery game or mystery project, I'll say that is currently lined up, and there's even a countdown timer for it. You can see this is over on their website that they have right now, and it seems to be counting down to February 15th, or at least midnight, as soon as the clock strikes on February 15th. And it says, some things never leave the walls. They only learn to wait. And you press the little play button there. It has some creepy sounds that'll play for a while there with audio. And I mean, a lot of people looked at this and said, hold on a minute, this is obviously horror themed. Okay. And we know Bloober Team, what they've been doing, and doing pretty well here with something like Silent Hill recently, right? They remake those games. Could this be Rule of Rose? And that's a game I have not played. And if I want to play it on actual hardware with the disc, the whole thing, like the original experience now, you look it up on eBay for the US version of the game, it's $1,000 complete. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. So that, to me, seems like one that would be set up nicely as just kind of that curiosity purchase of, oh, this is that really expensive game. Let's see what it is. Of course, you can emulate it, but, you know, I'm sure plenty of people who would want to buy it physically even and be like, look, I have the cover art and stuff for Rule of Rose up on my shelf. Great. But apparently that's not the case. So this was something that was posted over on the Bloober Team CEO on LinkedIn, and this seemed to be in response to Twisted Voxel, who picked up a lot of the speculation that was going online and kind of had their own take on it. And the CEO clarified that while the Rule of Rose guess was nice, the teaser definitely doesn't refer to any remake, entirely ruling out the possibility of it being Punchline's 2006 survival horror game. Now, the other thing with this is Bloober Team is apparently working on a game for the Switch 2. Like, they're working with Nintendo, and they've referenced this in previous interviews and just been pretty open about it, actually, which is a little surprising because we know how Nintendo can be with some of these unannounced titles where they're trying to keep it as quiet as possible until a few months before the thing comes out. And you think that would line up nicely for the partner showcase that's coming up here, we think, this week. But then you realize, oh wait, February 15th, that's, just about 2 weeks from now where it would all go live. So that doesn't necessarily line up, but maybe they just want to do their own thing, just kind of drop the info all at once when the website goes live, or maybe the website goes live and it's still a mystery. Like, they're going to play this up. It's marketing that they've thought about. I mean, think about with Nintendo and the Smiling Man, Emio the Smiling Man. That was a whole mystery with Nintendo and a mature rated game, and it looked like a horror title. This kind of feels a bit like a page out of that book. So maybe they're playing it by ear and them and Nintendo kind of working this out, but it's going to be interesting on February 15th to see exactly what this is. I actually would have thought it would have been cool if it was Rule of Rose, because again, I haven't played that game, and at this point, I would just be emulating it anyway, but that is a game just based on apparently the way the game works and some of the interesting things they did. I would like to see on actual hardware. Although I guess I could run it through like a hard drive on the PS2 that's been modified. Maybe that's the route at this point, because $1,000 for the game, come on, let's be real here. But we'll see what Bloober Team has for us on February 15th with this mystery website. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, because it's out in a couple of days, and I've been excited for this game and keeping an eye on it, and I've been ready to pick it up day one. And reviews did go live, which you can see. This is over on Metacritic. Now, currently it's sitting at an 83 on the PlayStation 5 and an 84 on the Switch 2. The PS5 at the time of this recording has the most reviews, and if we take a look at the split, 45 positive, 4 mixed, and we can take a look at a few here. Gamer.no gave it a perfect score, saying Square Enix has created an incredibly charming world with beautiful graphics that elevate the classic way of playing role-playing games and make it relevant today. It is so well done that this should be the template on which all new versions are built. They even cite Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, so pretty high praise to be comfortable enough with kind of the setup that they have here for them to then turn around and apply it to Chrono Trigger. RPG Fan gave it a 95, saying Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is true to the spirit of the original while sporting the best look and combat in the series. PSX Brazil says Dragon Quest VII is an incredible remake of a game that, despite criticism, always deserved more attention. From the excellent gameplay to the series' traditional DNA to the stupendous narrative, it's a must-play for fans of the genre. Now let's take a look at the opposite end of the spectrum here with some of the lower scores. Critical Hits gave it a 60, saying Dragon Quest VII attempts to modernize one of the franchise's most popular entries by revamping its visuals, refining its systems, and preserving the essence of the original, but ultimately runs into serious pacing and structural issues. So I did see that come up even in some of the more positive reviews, that there is a lot of downtime at points in the story that drag on for a bit. And that was a criticism for the original game on the PS1 and even then on the 3DS. So it's something that's kind of found its way in here, even though they have streamlined quite a bit of it from what reviewers are saying. We have Metro Game Central gave it a 70, saying a loving remake of a JRPG classic with pitch-perfect graphics and charming, if simplistic, storytelling and combat. IGN gave it a 70, saying Dragon Quest VII delivers a better-paced version of this 26-year-old classic while retaining its signature charm, but it also goes too far with some of its changes, standing down the experience for newer players at the expense of the challenge and discovery I expect from the series. So gotta hand it to IGN coming in with the tried and true 7 out of 10. Either way, though, even going through some of these reviews, some of the positives and negatives, I'm still pretty excited to pick this one up, and I'll be doing so on release day. But this is gonna be a game that's gonna take a while, because I mean, the original, you could get a like clear 100 hours out of it without too much problem. But with this one, even again, it's streamlined, it's still a 70-hour game, is what a lot of people were saying. So you'll get your money's worth, but some of the dragging points in the game seems like something you're definitely going to feel for several hours on end. But it'll be one that I'll probably keep for a bit to go through and spend quite a bit of time, I'm sure, taking my time getting through it, probably for most of the year. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, do you have a PS4 plugged in right now? Wow, 23% say yes, they do have a PS4 plugged in. 34% say no, it's put away, so they still have their PS4. And then 43% just don't own one. So we have majority who at least own a PS4 still right now. I see some people in the comments say that their PS4 Pro is plugged into a Samsung 3D TV. That's a real one right there. Got the Samsung 3D TV still in tow. Man, I missed the whole 3D TV like trend. I didn't have a 3D TV. Well, until recently I got the PlayStation one. I keep saying I'm gonna do a video on it, and I will, but it's an interesting experience. Got the glasses, the whole thing, and some games like actually the Prince of Persia collection they did on the PS3 supports the 3D functionality. So it's a interesting time that I think a lot of people have kind of even forgotten about or just missed completely. So that's one of the reasons, you know, people talk about VR and 3D in the same vein. And it might be similar in the sense that in 10 or 15 years, people will look back on VR and be like, man, remember those days? And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. It's from Sir, who says, you lose so much precision with touchscreen. Yeah, I mean, you do that's the thing. You end up kind of searching around on the touch screen while you're playing a game because you have to find where the button is or the joystick, or did your thumb go off of the joystick? It's you're not going to play a fighting game with an interface like that. Racing games also, because there is a delay in the input when you're moving your thumb around. Really anything where there's supposed to be a joystick, it's just not great. I mean, it really comes down to mouse mode almost, or touch functionality with some of those gacha games where it's like, hey, press here, press here, press here, and that's it. Not, hey, here's a whole fleet of buttons and just press A, B, X, Y, move left and right. It just doesn't come together nicely with a touchscreen. I still think this is something that Sony is experimenting for, not necessarily the entire front of the controller to be a touchscreen, more a certain part. I do think that touchpad, if the cost didn't get crazy and the battery life wasn't 30 minutes or something, I think it'd be kind of cool if that touchpad eventually evolved into a touchscreen, and then they can work off of something like what the Dreamcast and the VMU, or hey, the Wii U, kind of just in a much smaller form factor. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here on a card. Or maybe you want to chime in a bit more on the game keycard situation, as there's a very good conversation happening on the video I posted up over the weekend when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate and how it seems he's selling out despite not actually being on the cartridge. I'll leave that right below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.